Hey guys, welcome to quadratic equations using factoring. So let's take a look at how to do some of these. We have about 5 problems, I think, to kind of go through, and I'll try to take it slow and get used to how to do all this stuff. All right, so we start off, we got q squared plus 10q equals 0. All right, so first thing we want to do is, so we can take a q from q squared and a q from 10, because they both have a q in it. We can go ahead and take that out right there, and then we're going to multiply inside the parentheses to get the rest of this stuff, right? So then we'll have q times q is q squared, q times 10, 10q equals 0 still. Okay, all right, and then for your solution with something like this, so we're trying to get all this stuff to multiply towards 0. So if we have a 0 on the outside, then we know that whatever's in here won't even matter. If there's a 0 on the outside, 0 times anything is 0. So we know one of our solutions is going to be 0. Okay, what about the other one? All right, and then we also have a 10 in here, so if we could get inside the parentheses to equal 0, that would work as well, right? So if q is negative 10 plus 10 is 0, then we'll have what we want, right? Negative 10. All right, so if you sort of like wanted to work this out, q equals 0, 0 plus 10 is 10, 10 times 0 is 0. Q is negative 10, then we'd have negative 10 times negative 10 plus 10, 0. Negative 10 times 0, 0. Works out. All right, isn't that great? Okay, so that's the first one. Well, let's get rid of this. Sorry, this eraser is a little slow. We may just work right down the sheet on these other ones. All right, let's do the next question. So we have to get our pen back. X squared minus 3x minus 18 equals 0. All right. Sorry, it takes a second to write this stuff out. Okay, so you see this. You got 3 things, right? You got the x squared, the 3x, and the 18. Okay, so we're going to factor these. So first thing you want to do on this is get your parentheses set up, right? Because this is what we're going to be doing. And equals 0. Okay, so we know that we're going to start with the x squared. We know that x times x is x squared, right? So we're going to put these guys right in there. X times x is x squared. Now, what we want to do, this is kind of the rule here, is that we're going to be factoring 18. And it's really a negative 18, right? Because you got the minus sign there. So you got to be thinking of all the ways we can multiply something to 18. And what it has to do is it's going to have to add up to this number in the middle, which in this case is negative 3. Okay, so what we have there is you go through all of them, and so negative 6 times 3 equals negative 18, and negative 6 plus 3 equals that negative 3. So that's what we're going to go with, and let's see what happens. We get negative 6 plus 3. Okay, then then you want to multiply it out to make sure it works, right? So you have your x times your x equals x squared. And you have your x times 3, right? So that's a plus because we have a negative in there. So there we got our 3x. Then you have your negative 6 times x, so minus 6x. And negative 6 times 3 is negative 18, right? Okay, and so this should end up being the same as this. So we have x squared, 3x minus 6x is negative 3x. That's what we had up here, minus 18 equals 0. Okay, so now you've done all this, don't forget that you actually have to solve it, right? So, and we want in each of these parentheses one answer that equals 0. So if x equals 6, then we have 6 minus 6 equals 0. So that's a good one, 6. And here we have negative 3. Negative 3 plus 3 would equal 0. So that's our solution. Okay, now if this has confused you, you want to go back and look at it again, because what we do next is a little bit more complicated and is all based on having a solid understanding of this this concept. So let's go ahead and do the next one. Okay, so we have, let's see here, what are we looking at? X squared plus 16 minus 17 equals 0. Okay, so it's fairly similar actually, right? It's not all that much more complicated. Maybe I overspoke. Okay, x squared plus 16 minus 17. So first thing, we set up these little parentheses, just like we did in the last one. Okay, and same thing, right? You have that x squared. So you look at this and like, I don't know what to do with this, right? First thing, let's get these x's in there. Okay, now you're factoring 17, which is a prime number, right? So that means you can only factor it with 1 and itself, and we have a negative 17, right? So we have a negative 17, and we're going to need to get it to add up to 16. Okay, so negative 17 and plus 1 are probably going to work out just fine, don't you think? So let's check it out. Or I said that wrong. It should be plus 17 and negative 1, right? Because we want that number to be plus 16. Plus 17, negative 1, right? And then when we factor this stuff out, x times x is x squared. Negative 1x, right? X times negative 1. 17 times x is 17x. And 17 times negative 1, negative 17. And we factor that all out and we get x squared. That should have said 16x plus 16x minus 17 equals 0, right? And we have this right. And then trying to remember, we got to actually answer the question, right? So we want this left parenthesis to equal 0, so that would be negative 17. And we want the one on the right to equal 0. 1 minus 1 is 0. That would be a 1. So there's our answers right there. Okay. I'm going to run out of room, so give me a second here to erase some of this stuff. Okay, so the next one gets a little more complicated. Really, that one wasn't any more complicated. It was one question ahead of myself. Okay, and give my pen back. Okay, here we go. 5x squared. So already we can see we got something different going, right? Because we got that 5x squared, right? Before we've always just had x squared plus 17x minus 12 equals 0. Okay, so this one looks a little different, right? So try to remember that really we're just going to be doing really similar concepts with the factoring, right? So let's set the thing up just like the way we did it on the other problems. Okay. All right, so our first thing really, like we look at it, we're like, I don't know what to do, right? Is, okay, fine, let's start with the 5x, right? So there's only one way to multiply these numbers to get to a 5, so we know we're going to have a 5x and an x. Okay. And okay, now the tricky part is what numbers are we going to put in here? Yes. So as we're thinking of this, we know we're going to have to look at all the factors of 12, and again, we have a negative here to get to negative 12, right? And so as we're just sort of like thinking this out before you start messing with all the numbers, okay, you're trying to get to 17, right? So if I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking, okay, there's a pretty good chance that I've got a 5 here that maybe, like if I put a 4 here, 5x times 4 would give me 20x, right? And that would get me pretty close. So let's go ahead and do that one. And knowing that the other number is going to be a negative. So we've got our 4. 4 times, now this would have to be negative 3, right? Because 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Right? Negative 3 times x, negative 3x. And so And then we go ahead and see if what we did actually works, right? It says we multiply this stuff out, right? 5x times x is 5x squared. 5x times 4 is 20x. And then we have a minus here, right? Minus 3 times x is minus 3x. So we combine those two together, the 20x and the minus 3x, we're going to get 17x. That looks good up here. And 3 times 4, a little negative thrown on there, is 12, right? Okay, so we have our 2. Now, so we look back, here's where we have our factoring, right? So we can see the one easy one is over here on the right. X is going to be negative 4, right? Negative 4 plus 4 is 0. Okay, on the left it looks a little bit more confusing at first, doesn't it? So 5x minus 3. So as we think this out, we want this number that's 5 times x to equal 3, right? Because 3 minus 3 is 0. Okay, so go ahead and just do real basic algebra if the answer doesn't come to you, which for a lot of people it really doesn't, right? 5x equals 3, right? And then we divide each side by 5, x would equal 3/5, right? And that's your answer, 3/5. And, you know, if you're doing these and you doubt yourself, you can always just go ahead and plug it back in, right? So 5 over 1 times 3 over 5 is 15 over 5. 15 over 5 is 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. There we go. We got ourselves a good answer. All right, and we're going to go ahead and, just for fun, do one more. This stuff. Okay, if you can do that one, that's probably the hardest one you'll see, right? All right, last one. Let's see here. 3x squared. So again, already in our mind, thinking, okay, a little different. All right, the x squareds are easier. Plus 51x. So we're thinking, okay, big number. Plus 90 equals 0. All right, so you can probably do it yourself now, right? Which is probably a good idea as you're looking at these videos, is see if you can do it yourself first, then watch the video and see if you did it the same way I did it. Okay, so same thing, right? 3x and x. Okay, equals 90. All right, so you have all the factors of 90, so you can go through all of them, and you know you need it to add up to 51, right? So we need some sort of a number that's really pretty big. So as we start off, we're thinking, well, like 3 times 15 is 45, right? That would get us pretty close to that 51 already. So let's go ahead and throw that one in there. 3 times 15, 45. Just making sure I'm still doing it right. Okay. And so then with this, we would need a 6, right? 15 times 6 does equal 90. And if we go ahead and multiply these out, 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times 15, like we just said, is 45. 6 times x is 6x, right? And then we have that 45 plus the 6 gets us to 51x. 6 times 15 is 90. We're looking good. Okay, now for solving this, so on the one on the left, we need negative 6. 3 times x to be negative 6. If we plug in negative 2 for x, that gets us negative 6. Okay, so negative 2 is a good answer. And simpler over here, we have x plus 15. We need this to equal 0, so x needs to be negative 15. And there we are. That's our answer. So thanks for hanging with me on this long video, and I hope that it helped.